Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. What is Pokémon? Pokémon started off as a video game that came in two versions called Red and Blue. The video game is set in a world inhabited with fantastical monsters called Pokémon. You play a boy who has to select from 3 unique Pokémon. Once chosen, you get to travel far and wide collecting Pokémon through rock, paper, scissors style combat. When weakened, a wild Pokémon can be caught with a pocket-sized device called a Pokéball, and it becomes yours to use in future battles. Your adventure is also spiced up with side quests, battles against other trainers, and many other exciting elements. Since Red and Blue, many other versions have been released, with exciting updates to each one. Pokémon has also expanded into a huge franchise made up of trading cards, toys, a TV show, and loads of movies. I grew up during the big Pokémon craze of the 90s. I played many of the games, watched the TV show every day, saw the movies in theaters, collected the trading cards, and pretty much obsessed over anything Pokémon related. So the franchise is very nostalgic to me, plus I sometimes revisit the TV show, movies, and video games as an adult. And in this episode of Jambareeqi Reviews, I'm going to review the first ever Pokémon movie. In Pokémon the first movie, a legendary Pokémon called Mew is cloned by a group of scientists, resulting in a powerful creation called Mewtwo, who is tricked into serving the sleazy gangster Giovanni. Angered by humankind for how they use Pokémon, Mewtwo vows to seek revenge on the race who made him. He invites many talented Pokémon trainers to challenge him, including a boy called Ash, the hero of the film. Using clones of other Pokémon, Mewtwo plans to punish humans and Pokémon for the way things are, with the intention to only let his clone survive his wrath. Can Ash stop Mewtwo, or will this deadly clone end up ruling the world? Before I begin this review, I would like to clarify 2 things. First of all, this will be a review of the American English dub of the film by 4Kids Entertainment. So please be aware that most of my criticisms will be towards the US version. However, there's only so much a dub can change, so some points will apply to the Japanese version too. Secondly, please remember that this is a movie review, so before anyone shouts, "But in the video games," or "But in the TV show," I insist that you remember that movies have to work on their own and provide a solid, coherent experience from beginning to end. If you have to require any knowledge or experience of a movie source material to understand or enjoy it, then it has failed as a film because it's missing key ingredients to make it a complete and fulfilling viewing experience. Right, now that we've made those things clear, let's begin the review. When I first saw this movie at the cinema as a child, I was completely blown away. I even cried at one point and left feeling satisfied. However, I saw this movie when Pokémon was the biggest thing around, and I was completely obsessed with anything to do with Pokémon, so no wonder I loved it. Heck, the film could have just had Pikachu bouncing on a trampoline for 2 hours and I would have been won over. Now that the Pokémon craze has died down since the 90s and I've become an adult with a better understanding of film, I can look at Pokémon the first movie without rose-tinted glasses and admit that it's a highly flawed film. To begin with, the movie fails to welcome viewers into the world of Pokémon. It throws the audience in the deep end, hoping that they're all already huge Pokémon fans. The film does open with an attempt to explain the world of Pokémon through narration, but it's too vague, brief, and abstract to fully explain everything you need to know. Many people outside the Pokémon fanbase will be too busy asking questions instead of being engaged in the film. This movie could be a gateway into the Pokémon franchise for many people. Not establishing the concept of Pokémon for newbies will make them feel alienated, and maybe even push them away from further pursuing the franchise. This is the inherent problem with making a movie for a specific niche audience. It's going to have consequences. It's like if I wrote my own book, tore out 10 pages, then only let a select few read those 10 pages. This means that an obscure group of people will be the only ones to appreciate and experience the story as a whole. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Also, even though I have full knowledge of the Pokémon universe, I feel like the movie's decision to jump straight into the story and skip any sense of world building creates a very rushed opening. The Pokémon universe in this film lacks weight or depth because everything is glimpsed over for the sake of the fans. So the lack of Pokémon world exposition isn't just a problem for non-fans in the audience, it's also an issue for the film itself too. This is why fan service shouldn't come before good filmmaking. The film is also boringly uneventful. I honestly didn't feel like I went through a lot as a viewer after watching it. Most of the movie consists of Pokémon fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. It doesn't help that the fighting is often limited to basic punching back and forth. Plus, when Pokémon use their powers for fighting, the battles seem really brief. All I remember from this movie are images of Pokémon smacking each other in the same boring stadium. Also, Mewtwo's invincibility can get very tiresome too. Watching him deflect attacks again and again and again can get boring fast. He only gets hit once in the whole film too. Mewtwo's near perfection takes away a heap of tension from the movie because there's too little hope of defeating him. There's not really a sense of adventure or varied pacing in this film. It's pretty much Pokémon slapping each other for about an hour, alongside a preachy and heavy-handed message that's in the English dub. Yes, this film has a moral, and it goes like this.
Pokémon aren't meant to fight. Not like this. It's useless. What can come out of it?
Nothing but pain.
Why can't Mewtwo understand it's not right to force Pokémon to battle this way?
They're all living creatures. This just proves that fighting is wrong.
Yes, the moral of the film is that Pokémon are innocent creatures and shouldn't be made to fight each other, even though our heroes have captured Pokémon and trained them to fight other Pokémon. The film never clarifies why regular Pokémon battles conducted by trainers are more ethically correct than fights taking place in Mewtwo Stadium. The film only has one example of a regular trainer battle, and it's no less violent than the fighting in Mewtwo Stadium. Heck, the Pokémon in the trainer battle look pretty messed up by the end. The only difference with the trainer battle is that there's a sense of competition and they're fighting until Pokémon faint, not die. So is fighting only right if there's a potential winner and no one dies? That's not exactly a valuable message for young audiences to apply to their own lives. I'm going to give 0 points to the content in this film. Ash is a relentlessly brave boy with a strong heart. While I do admire his determination to do the right thing, never give up and protect Pokémon, I do find his overconfidence to be obnoxious at times, especially when he stupidly tries to fight Mewtwo. This is a powerful Pokémon who's demonstrated his invincibility many times, Ash. There's being brave and there's being a freaking idiot. Pikachu is a cute and adorable Pokémon. His friendship with Ash is believable and organic, but as a character, Pikachu has little to do besides fight his clone and briefly defend his relationship with humans to Mewtwo. Mewtwo is very intimidating and has plenty of badass moments, but his invincibility makes the film less exciting and his motive is all over the place. He was cloned from Mew to serve as a weapon for mankind, so he wants to take revenge by cloning Pokémon and making them fight other Pokémon. Hypocritical much? His hypocrisy doesn't even make him interestingly flawed, it just makes his intentions seem illogical and backwards. Sometimes revenge isn't even his motive. Suddenly he'll say that his focus is on proving that he's the most powerful Pokémon in the world. Make up your mind, you silly psychic bastard! Mew may seem very cute, but he's actually really agile and strong. He's adorable and has some kick-ass moments, but he doesn't have much purpose besides serving as a worthy adversary for Mewtwo. Even then, the fights between Mewtwo and Mew are pretty boring. They just chase around and fire balls of energy at each other. It's not much. Team Rocket, a trio of hapless nitwits who stalk Ash and his friends, mainly provides slightly amusing comic relief, which does help soften the dark elements of the film, but Meowth is the only character to add anything relatively important to the story by acting as a Pokémon translator for the audience. Most of the other characters are pretty much sidelined. They become spectators to what's going on and don't have much involvement in the main story, especially Ash's friends Brock and Misty. Ash and Mewtwo may be the stars of the movie, but taking agency away from the other characters makes them seem less involved and developed. I'm going to give 2 points to the characters. The animation for this movie is a big step up from the cheap and corner-cutting TV show. With a larger budget, the animators can achieve much more fluid character acting. However, I'll admit that I was distracted by the theatrically presented cyberpunk-style background art, which looks really cool and distinctly unique. That's the problem, the production design is more interesting than the character animation, but that's mainly because the characters don't have much to do. Like I said, this is a really uneventful film. There are some standout animation moments that may impress you, but for the most part, the backgrounds mainly steal the show. I'm going to give 3 points to the animation. Veronica Taylor voices Ash. She sounds believably confident and brave in the role.
It's not gonna end like this, Mewtwo. We won't let it. You're mine.
Iku Otani voices Pikachu. She manages to provide a range of clear emotions with just a character's name as dialogue. It's very impressive.
Pikachu.
Philip Bartlett voices Mewtwo. He uses his rich, booming voice to give an intimidating and haunting personality to his character's dialogue.
The world will heed my warning. The reign of Mewtwo will soon begin.
Eric Stewart voices both Brock and James of Team Rocket. While he doesn't have a knack for natural delivery, he's certainly entertaining as campy James and amusingly likeable as Brock. Rachel Lillis voices Misty and Jessie of Team Rocket. I think she does a great job sounding fabulously flamboyant as Jessie, but her voice for Misty is too scratchy and whiny for my liking.
I was prepared for trouble, but not for this.
Make that double for me.
Now I can see how horrible fighting really is.
Even the best of friends will fight sometimes.
I'll promise never to fight again if you will. Oh, Jessie!
Hungry. Need food. Oh, Ash! You haven't done a thing all day. I'm too weak to work, Misty. I haven't eaten since breakfast. No.
This lunch is gonna be just perfect for you, Ash. It's my lazy boy no-chew stew.
Maddie Bloystein voices Meowth. She gives the role a cheeky Brooklyn accent that adds to his wisecracking charm.
What am I doing? Let's get something straight, copycat. You elf ain't gonna push me out around.
I'm going to give 4 points to the voice acting. Despite all the problems I have with 4Kids as a dubbing company, I can't deny how amazing their original music sounds sometimes. The music for this film is near outstanding. It's a wonderful array of triumphant horns for action sequences, ominous dark ambience for moments of tension or atmosphere building, and goofy pieces for scenes of Team Rocket messing around. There's so much depth in every composition, each track oozes heavy emotions, but the score feels severely wasted on this movie because its narrative isn't as epic, profound, or grandiose as the composer's hard work. Heck, I actually don't think that Pokémon the first movie deserves a score this amazing. I'm going to give 4 points to the music. To conclude, I think that Pokémon the first movie, in its English dubbed format, doesn't really have much to offer as a film. It's pretty much an hour of Pokémon slapping each other while humans preach a hypocritical message. That's about it. It's so underwhelming, uneventful, unimpressive, and really short. It flies by. Sure, as a Pokémon fan, I find it pretty cool to see my favourite monsters on the big screen, but as a film fan, I want more. I want something cinematic and impressive, something satisfying. Not this. This is just meh. Despite all this, this film still holds a special place in my heart because it's so nostalgic. It was the first anime film I ever saw, and sometimes I do like to get together with friends and put the film on VHS and watch it together, just to recapture that childhood memory. It's got nostalgic value, but I wouldn't call it a good movie. Pokémon the first movie has gained 13 points, which translates to 2.5 Pokeball strawberries out of 5. If you enjoyed Digimon the movie or any of the other Pokémon movies, then I think you might get something out of this film. For the next episode of Jambareeqi Reviews, I'm going to let you guys decide what I review next. Simply take part in the poll in the description box below. The poll will close on the 10th of July. I'm very excited to find out what you vote for. Cheerio, folks.